Hey, Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ bless, Officer Baruch, IUIC Tampa, and we're back again with another series of Who's Who in the Bible. Now, if this is your first Who's Who, I definitely suggest that you go and check out the other ones. But today, we're going over Who's Who Joseph. All right, our forefather Joseph. We'll look at the things that he went through. We'll look at the things that he had to overcome, and then we'll see how it relates to our life today, okay? Get the book of Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Let's get into it.
The book of Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
The things that were written aforetime, that's why we go back to learn the history of our foremothers, to learn the history of our forefathers, and it was written in the Bible aforetime. So we're going to go back through, we're going to learn the things that they went through. We're going to see and go a little bit in depth into their mindset, right? The things that they had to overcome, personal trials that we can see that we ourselves might go through. Read.
That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
Right. And what they overcame is going to give us hope if we apply the wisdom that they applied when they went through the things that we will eventually go through. All right. So again, this is Who's Who. Joseph, down but not out. We're going to read about our forefather Joseph, how he was literally, physically cast down, but he wasn't out. All right. Sometimes we may be put down. Sometimes we may go through things where we go to a lower state, but you might be down. You might be knocked down, but you're not knocked out. All right. So let's get it. Let's start with a little bit of history. Okay. Let's go into Genesis chapter 30. All right, now a little bit of it. Joseph, his name means may God add. Okay, he was 11th son of Jacob. His name literally reflects his role that he would in his life of Israel. All right, Joseph was used to preserve and prosper the nation of Israel in Egypt during a famine and eventually the nationhood. Where we would spend that 400 years, or 400 years later, coming out of Egypt during the Exodus. Okay, so may God add. How did Joseph add to Israel? Let's start Genesis chapter 30. Let's start at verse 22.
The book of Genesis chapter 30 and verse 22.
Come on.
And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb.
All right, so Joseph was born during the time of Jacob's sojourn in Laban. Now, we'll go into Jacob in another time. All right, we'll go into Jacob, how his name was changed to Israel. We'll do all that in another Who's Who. But Joseph was born during the time of Jacob's sojourn in Laban. Read it one more time.
And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son.
Right, so that's Joseph. The Lord shall add to me another son. All right, so this goes into his name, where it says, what is it? Give me one. Oh, may God add. All right, may God add. So she was talking about another son coming from him, which would be the next son, Benjamin. But when we look into Joseph's life, how did he actually add to the nation of Israel? Let's continue in that, okay? So this was a foreshadowing how Joseph would play a major role in the prospering of Israel as a nation. May God add. We will start with 17-year-old Joseph. All right, we're going to start with 17-year-old Joseph. We're going to see how his character was. We're going to see what type of person he was when he was a youngster. All right, because we all been young before. So we're going to see how young Joseph was. Get Genesis 37 and verse 1. Let's get into that.
The book of Genesis chapter 37 and verse 1.
Come on.
And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
Come on.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
Their what?
Their evil report.
Right. So this 17-year-old young Joseph, He was with his brothers, feeding the sheep and things like that, hanging out with his brothers. And he saw his brothers in sin. He saw his brothers doing evil. And what did he do? He went back and snitched, right? They call it snitching. But he went back and told. He applied Leviticus 5:1 because Joseph was brought up in the laws. And so he went and told, and it didn't sit well with his brothers. Read.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children.
He had favorites. You understand? A lot of people be like, oh, you can't have favorites. No, our forefathers did it. And dagnammit, if I want a favorite, I'm going to have a favorite. All right, keep reading.
Because he was the son of his old age.
Because he was the son of his old age. Read.
And he made him a coat of many colors.
Come on.
And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him.
They did what?
They hated him.
They hated their younger brother. Okay? Now, hatred goes in a variety of different ways. When you hate someone, you think hatred thoughts, and so much so you speak hatred words. After a while, the things that you think, the things that you say become a part of your character and who you are. So then actions will come forth from that, and that's what we're going to see coming forward. Read.
And could not speak peaceably unto him.
Anything they said to Joseph was not peaceable unto him. Why? Because they had hatred in their heart. Okay, and we see many people in the world. We see many people in the truth. If they got hatred towards you, they're not gonna speak peaceably to you. All right, let's stop right there. Actually, no, let's keep reading. Let's go to verse. We're gonna go to verse 10.
And Joseph dreamed a dream.
Now, not only did he tell on his big brothers, okay, not only was he the favorite of his father, not only did he have a nice coat of many colors, but he had a dream, a certain type of dream. Read.
And he told it his brethren.
And then he goes, hey, brothers, I have a great dream. I want to tell you all. Not understanding that, hey, they're not being mean to you because you just young. They really hate you. Okay, read.
And they hated him yet the more.
And they hated him yet the more. You know how sometimes you got that annoying little brother or that annoying little cousin or something like that, and they just don't get it. Like, I could be as mean to you as I want to be, and you just don't get it, right? That's how Joseph was. All right, he was annoying, young, little prophet in the making, right? But his brothers didn't understand that. Okay, and we're gonna see that. Read.
And he said unto them, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field.
He said, we were binding sheaves in the field. Read.
And lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheep.
Now remember that word. We're going to come back to it later. Obeisance, okay? Obeisance means reverence, okay? To respect, to reverence. It says, bow down or reverence to my sheaf. Read.
And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us?
Because that's what that means. So Joseph, even at a young age, he had the spirit or the gift, the spiritual gift of interpreting dreams. So the Lord gave him that at a young age, and he told his younger brothers, and they knew exactly what that means. So not only do they think that he's prideful, not only do they think that he's a snitch, he also thinks that he's going to usurp authority or be over them, right? And they hated him all the more. Read.
Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
And for his words. Everything that came out of his mouth, they hated him for that. Read.
And he dreamed yet another dream.
And then he dreams another dream. This guy. Read.
And told it his brethren. And said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made
what?
And the 11 stars made obeisance to me.
Made obeisance to me. So he's telling them again. He's confirming it again to them. And they what? Hated him even the more. Okay. So this goes a little bit deeper into what the mindset of Joseph is and his 11 brothers. Okay. So let's get verse 18, because after that, you start to see that they conspired against him to kill him. All right, this is a heavy thing because remember, after hatred words, after hatred thoughts, after hatred will come hatred actions. Read.
Verse 18. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him.
So Joseph was coming from afar off. He was going to check up on his brethren again. And his brothers saw him and they conspired. They said, hey, here he come, man. Let's do that thing we've been talking about. You talking about kill him? Yeah, we talking about kill him. I don't know. Yeah, man, we got to kill him. Every time I wake up, I got to hear his dreams. Every time I see him in that coat of many colors, it reminds me of how much our Father loves this man, this boy, who's annoying, won't let us get away with nothing. We got to kill him. We got to get him out of here. Read.
And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh.
Behold, this dreamer cometh. Read.
Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him. And we shall see what will become of his dreams.
Yep, come on.
And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands.
So Reuben, he was the smart one. He said, hey, hold on. We can't kill this. We can't kill our little brother, man. We can't do that. We cannot do that. So he delivered him out of his hands. Read.
And said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness. And lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass.
Right. So his intention was to save him and save his life, to bring him back to his father again. That was Reuben's understanding. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to protect his little brother. Now, it doesn't mean that, Reuben wasn't annoyed by him and things like that, but he didn't want to see his younger brother killed. Read.
And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again.
Come on.
And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit.
So they ripped up the coat. They stripped it off of him. They cast him and put him into a pit. Read.
And the pit was empty. There was no water in it.
Come on.
And they sat down to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes and looked. And behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead.
So they put him in the pit. And they was like, man, that was a lot of work, bro. I ain't know Joseph was that heavy. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I didn't know he could put up a fight like that. Man. Hey, break bread with me, man. Let's eat. Right there when he's in the pit. You don't think he's screaming, help! Judah, Manasseh. Oh, no, Manasseh ain't there yet. But Issachar, Reuben, Levi, help! You don't think he's screaming for his brothers? That's the hatred that they have for him, that they ignored the call for help. So much so that they'd rather hear themselves chew over hearing their brothers cry. Read.
With their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood?
What is the profit if we kill him, man? I mean, what's that going to do for us? We already done got into much trouble. Okay, what is that going to do for us? That's what Judah said. Read.
Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content.
You know what, Judah, you right, man. You right, Judah. You've been the smartest among us so far. Judah, that's why you at the top, man. That's why you at the top, Judah. Are you a wise man, Judah? But even in all that, he says, let us not spill innocent blood. All right. Where are we at? Yep, verse 28. Keep reading.
Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt.
All right, keep reading a little bit more.
And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren and said, The child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats.
Right, because remember, Reuben wanted to return Joseph back to his father. So Reuben must have went somewhere, and when he came back, he's like, yo, y'all spoiled my plan. I was going to return him back. What did y'all do with my brother? What happened? You understand that? So he rent his coat in anger. Read.
And he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors and brought it to their father.
Come on.
And said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him.
A what?
An evil beast hath devoured him.
Come on.
Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces.
Right, because that's the mindset that they wanted to give to their own righteous father. But he says a beast have devoured him. Watch this. Let's go a little bit deeper. Go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 18. Because when you have hatred, that spirit will turn you into a whole nother person. So much so that you will act and do things like a beast. Read.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 18.
Come on.
I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men.
Come on.
That God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts.
That they themselves are beasts. So men can also be referred to as beasts. You understand that? So they didn't literally kill Joseph, but their hatred towards him made them made Jacob believe that he was destroyed of a beast. Who was those beasts? His brothers that had hatred for him. You understand that? Go to 1 John chapter 3 and verse 15. Let's go a little bit deeper. This is the spirit that they had, the spirit of a beast that would commit murder. Read.
The book of 1 John chapter 3 and verse 15.
Come on.
Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer.
Is a what?
Is a murderer.
Come on.
And ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in him.
So that hatred, that beast mentality, that's what Jacob saw when he saw what they did to Joseph's garment. He really literally thought that a beast killed him, but it was just his own brothers. All right, that spirit that he had on him. Let's continue. Let's go to Genesis 37 and verse 32 through 36. We're going to continue through the timeline of Joseph. So Joseph is being carried off by the Ishmaelites into Egypt. All right. Remember, he's still 17 years old, a young man. All right, come on.
The book of Genesis, chapter 37, verse 32. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces.
Okay, keep reading.
And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days.
Right, because that was his favorite, his son of old age. Read.
And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and a captain of the guard.
Right, so he was sold into Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, and a captain of the guard. All right, so he wasn't sold just for naught. He wasn't going to be like some regular, slave on the street. The Lord had a plan, and that's what we're going to go into right now. Because a lot of us, we go through things in our life, and we start to doubt. We start to think that God has forsaken us. We start to think that God has turned his back on us, even though we keep in the law, statutes, commandments, we show charity. And we may fall on hard times, and we, for some reason, think that God forgot about us. This is for you, all right? This is for you. Let's continue. Let's go to Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1.
The book of Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph.
And the Lord what?
And the Lord was with Joseph.
The Lord was with Joseph the whole time. Keep reading.
And he was a prosperous man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
Come on.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand.
Right. So everything that Joseph did, it prospered. He didn't put him outside in the garden. He brought him into the house. And what Joseph was doing among the order that he had, the administrative, the logistics that Joseph did, it flourished the house of Potiphar. Read.
And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand.
Everything he had, he put into the hands of Joseph. Read.
And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake.
You see that? The Lord blessed the Egyptian's house because of Joseph. That's why when you see the only reason America is flourishing is because of Israel. You understand that? When you look at Joseph, his house, everywhere Joseph went, it increased in what is it? Beautifulness. Can I say that? Can I say beautifulness? All right. That's how it was. He walked into the bathroom. Somehow the bathroom just started smelling like roses. You understand? Because everything he did, he brought beauty and prosperity to that thing. That's a heavy spirit. Read.
And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in his house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand. And he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat.
Right. So that means, read it one more time, verse 6.
And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand.
Everything he had, that Potiphar had, he left Joseph to deal with it. He left Joseph because he flourished in that thing. The garden looked good. The refrigerator looked good. The kids' room looked good. The swimming pool is always clean. Everything. The chariots was clean. The wheels was on the chariots had no dust to them. You understand? Joseph was the man for the job. Read.
And he knew not aught what he had, save the bread which he did eat.
Save the bread which he did eat. Meaning that Joseph, Potiphar didn't have to take care of anything. Now, the hardest part of Potiphar's day was figuring out what he was going to eat for dinner. That's how Joseph made everything perfect. The hardest part of his Potiphar's day was like, man, what am I going to eat? Damn. I ain't had to think like this since Joseph got here. You understand? Keep reading.
And Joseph was a goodly person and well-favored.
Why did the scripture go into that? Because what we're about to transition into, you will see about Joseph and how certain people in Potiphar's house felt about Joseph. It said that Joseph was goodly person and well-favored. Go to 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 12. So this first part that we're dealing with is Joseph's birth and bondage, okay? His birth and bondage. That's where we're coming from right now. All right? So read that.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 12.
It said that he was a goodly person and well-favored. Read.
And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look to. And the Lord said, arise.
You see that? So he was ruddy in countenance, beautiful. Read it again.
And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look to.
That goodly person and well-favored. Read.
And the Lord said, arise,
Right,
anoint him.
Go back. Genesis 39 and verse 6. Read it one more time.
The book of Genesis chapter 39 and verse 6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand. And he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well-favored.
So Joseph, he was a handsome young man. You understand that? But in the fact that Potiphar's wife, you'll see, started to take a liking to him. Not just because of the things that he did in his work in the house, but he was a well-favored young man. Okay? Goodly to look at. Keep reading.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph.
You see that? She was like, man, who is this young tenderoni in here? I see what you've been doing, Joseph. You didn't got everything in order, everything in flourish since you've been here. You know, you didn't touched everything but me. She going around the house thinking like that. Read.
And she said, lie with me.
See? She said it straight to his face. lie with me, meaning have sex with me, Joseph. You didn't bless everything, bless me. That's what she's saying. Read.
But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hands.
Right. He didn't hold nothing back from anything I could have in his house. If I needed to go to the Egyptian corner store, I could use the biggest chariot to get there. He ain't hold nothing back from me. I could swim in his swimming pool with anyway. I could do whatever I needed to do in this house. The only thing he wouldn't allow me to have, though, read.
There is none greater than I in this house. Neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife.
You see that? So, no, we're not going there. I understand my role. Now, he understood how the Lord was using him in his role. So he wasn't going to transgress against, number one, the Lord, and number two, Potiphar, who put him in such a great position. Read.
How then can I do this great wickedness?
This great wickedness and what?
And sin against God.
And sin against God. So he knew the laws of adultery. He knew the laws of fornication. He knew not to commit or to covet his neighbor's wife. Heavy. Read.
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her, or to be with her.
Right. Now, you got to imagine, it said, and it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day. Day by every day. She was saying something, whispering in his ear. She was saying something to him. Hey, what? Never mind. Joseph, messing with him. Keep reading.
And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within.
Now, watch this. It just happened to be that she would always try to plant that seed. So what she was looking for is a work husband. That's what she was looking for. She was looking for her a work husband. This world is a wicked, very wicked place. And you will see a lot of times that the women get caught up in the workplace and that the men get caught up in the workplace. Why? Because of verse 10. Read it one more time.
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her.
Right, but here's the thing. You speak day by day. You may not know the intentions of those that you speak to in the workplace. You get the compliments. You're getting that coffee, even though it's free in the break room. He bringing you the coffee, dropping it off. She bringing you the coffee, dropping it off. But Joseph knew the intentions. We in this truth, we always must know the intentions. If they not in this truth, you got to keep your guard up. Even if they in the truth, keep your spiritual guard up. Read.
That he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her.
He ignored her all the day long. And guess what? For you married brothers and sisters, when the world sees that you are married and you are not hearkening unto their words, it makes them want you even more. So guess what? You got to keep your guard up. Read.
And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within.
So it was none of the men of the house there within, including who? Her husband. There was no men in the house when Joseph went to go do his work, his business in the house. Read.
And she caught him.
She did what?
And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
She caught him by the garment, and he had to run. He literally said, Get up off me, devil. But that type of mindset, that type of spirit, we read about in Proverbs chapter 7 and verse 10. Let's go there. Because only a type of spirit has that. Watch this. Proverbs 7, and let's start at verse, let's start at verse 9.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 7 and verse 9. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot, and subtle of heart.
And subtle of heart. Day by day, always saying something. The winking of the eye, the showing the skin, the shimmy of the shoulder so the lace could, the opening of the curtain as he's in the house so she could see him. All of these things. You get what we're saying, right? That subtlety of heart. Read.
She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house.
Uh-huh.
Now is she without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner.
Uh-huh. Watch this. Read.
So she caught him.
So she did what?
So she caught him.
The same thing that Potiphar's wife did to Joseph. She caught him. Spitting that game, put the hands, hey, hold up now. Put the hands on the shoulder and say, look at me when I talk to you, Joseph. You telling me you don't want this, Joseph? Read.
And kissed him.
And did what?
And kissed him.
Uh-huh.
And with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me.
Uh-huh.
This day have I paid my vows.
Read this. Keep going. Read.
Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee.
That's what she did. What's she doing in the house? What's she doing around Joseph? She said, I was looking for you, and I found you, Joseph. Read.
Therefore I came forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee.
Mm-hmm.
I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works,
And read that. Come on.
with fine linen of Egypt.
With fine linen of Egypt. She said, Joseph, I got the fine linens. I got the tapestry. I got the roses. I got the candles going. I got the good Egyptian music going on down the block. You understand? This is the spirit she was trying to put on Joseph to seduce him, to catch him. Read.
I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon.
You see that? That's how she was trying to get into his mind. It smelled good. It smelled good in the hood, Joseph. Come on.
Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning.
But keep reading. Watch this. Come
Let
on.
us solace ourselves with loves.
Let us solace ourselves with love. So this sister had that same type of spirit, that same type of mindset, trying to put that into Joseph's head. When? Day by day. I got the Egyptian linen. I got the tapestry. The good man is not home. Keep reading. No. I want to watch this. Hold on. Did we? Read that 18 one more time.
Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with love.
What does that word solace mean? Let's pull that up.
The dictionary definition of solace, plural, comfort or consolation in a time of distress or sadness.
You see that? In a time of distress or sadness. This sister was saying, look, there's no man here. I don't know where my husband is. He don't treat me right. He don't treat me like he used to. You know, I know you single. My husband don't he ain't around. He don't talk to me like he used to. You understand? I still got the old chariot. You know, I don't want that anymore. I think that you could treat me better. Everything has flourished. You could take care of me better than my husband can, Joseph. And that's the spirit that she was putting into his head, or trying to. It's the same thing. So when it says to comfort she wanted comfort. You understand that? And that's why we as men have to be on another level, because you may hear these women say, oh, my husband this, my husband that. Or you brothers, or these you sisters, oh, my wife this, my wife that. We have to be on another level, because that's the same spirit to what? To destroy you. Keep reading.
For the good man is not at home.
You see that? Just like in Joseph's sake, there's no man in the house. The good man is not home. This is what she's saying. There's nobody here, Joseph. Look at my bed. Look at my bed. Look at my bed, Joseph. Read.
He is gone a long journey. He had taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed.
Right. So he gone for a while, Joseph. We can solace, just comfort me until the morning. Let's go back. So what did Joseph do? Joseph girded his loins and he fled. Why? Get that in Sirach chapter 20, 20 and 21. I'm shooting from the hip. Let me see. Nah, 21 and 20. It's somewhere around there. Where were we? Sirach 21 and 2. There we go. Come on.
The book of Sirach, chapter 21 and verse 2.
Come on.
Flee from sin.
Do what?
Flee from sin.
That's how Joseph was. He fled. He said, I shall not commit this great wickedness and sin against God. Scripture says, flee from sin. Read.
As from the face of a serpent.
Come on.
For if thou comest too near it, it will bite thee.
Uh-huh.
The teeth thereof are as the teeth of a lion.
Come on.
Slaying the souls
Slaying
of
the
men.
what?
Slaying the souls of men.
Is there more on that? All right, slaying the souls of men. So imagine if Joseph did end up going and committing that adultery. What we will be reading a whole different story here. The children of Israel will be in a whole different state scenario. Joseph was a particular, he was a how do I say it? Come on, big words. He was a great man. To say the least. But he was pivotal to the movement of Israel. Okay? To where we are today, Joseph played a major role in who we are in this world. All right? Let's continue. Where are we? Let's go back. I've been working on my words, man. I got to read the thesaurus more, obviously. It's all good. Where were we? All right, yeah. Genesis 39 and 12.
The book of Genesis, chapter 39 and verse 12.
Come on.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in Hebrew unto us to mock us. Mm-hmm. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out.
You see that now? She talking about he was trying to molest her. He was trying to do all these things to her, and the man was innocent. It was her, but because of that environment that he was in, he got caught up. All right, he got caught up, and she lied against him. Let's go to verse. Where we at? Let's go to verse 19.
Verse 19. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying.
So when Potiphar finally came back, and he heard these words, read.
Which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. Mm-hmm. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison.
Keep reading.
But the Lord was...
Wait, what's that first word? Verse 21?
But the Lord was with Joseph.
You gotta say it like a Chris. But the Lord! but the Lord, read.
And showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison.
All right, so remember when he fled, she still had the cloak or his garment in her hand. Basically, she thought that she had the fate of Joseph in her hands. That's why she was lying unto him. She could have said anything. She could have just let it go. She could have just, threw it, But she thought that she had more power than God. Listen, there will be things that we go through where people think they have their life in your hands. But everything belongs to the Most High God. And we're going to see that, all right? Let's go. Now we're transitioning. Go to John chapter 10, verse 27 through 28. I want to show you that real quick.
The book of John chapter 10 and verse 27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me.
Uh-huh.
And I give unto them eternal life.
Come on.
And they shall never perish.
Come on.
Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand.
Neither shall what?
Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand.
Right. She thought just because she put a hand on them, and she thought she had Joseph's life in her hand, just like this world. They think they have our life in their hand, but ain't nobody going to pluck us from the hand of the Most High God. You understand? Those that keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, we are in the hand of God. All right? Now we're going to transition. We're going to look into Joseph's rise to power. Okay? He's in prison. He was sold by his brothers. And now he's in a place where the Lord has given him favor in prison. And we're going to see how he gets out of that state. Let's go to Genesis chapter 40. All right. So as Joseph is in prison, he served with the chief of Pharaoh's kitchen, his inner circle. Okay. The chief of the kitchen. Let's go. Yep.
The book of is Genesis chapter 40 and verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers.
Right. So these ain't regular people. So when he has a council, he has his war counselors. He has his financial advisors. He has his, give me some more. He has his diplomats. Guess what? He also has the chief of the what was it called? The chief of the bakers. He has the chief of the butlers. These two offended Pharaoh during the council meeting or something in some way, and he's like, "Hey, throw these brothers in prison." Read.
And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them.
So this was like a celebrity prison almost. You remember when Snoop Dogg and what was her name, Betty Crocker? Or no, what's the Edomite? They was in prison together, right? They went
Martha Stewart.
Roger, what's her name?
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart. I said Roger Stewart. That shows you how much I care, okay? But it was one of those prisons. They didn't go to the other places, all right, to the lower parts of the prison. These were the chief parts. Read.
And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. And they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison.
Right, so now they have a dream. And we also understand that when Joseph was young, he was able to interpret dreams. That was his spiritual gift. Let's go to verse 12 and verse 16. So Joseph interprets the dreams, and we'll see that one was for death and one was to actually be reinstated into their previous position. Verse 12.
Verse 12. And Joseph said unto him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler.
All right. So he was the butler of Pharaoh. So he tells him that, hey, you're the cupbearer. You're going to be reinstated back to your previous position. Read.
Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house.
Right, come on.
For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews.
I was stolen away. I was sold into slavery. I was stolen by my homeland, away from my parents. Read.
And here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon.
And I was wrongly accused by Potiphar's wife. I did nothing to be here. Make sure when you get there, you let Pharaoh know this dream, let him know that I'm down here. Okay, let him know. He didn't know what type of situation was going to come up where he would have to talk to Pharaoh about it. But he said, hey, cupbearer, butler, let the man know. Read.
When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head.
So now the baker, he says, hey, oh. That was good. That was good. You got something for me? Here's my dream, Joseph. Okay. I was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. Read.
And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baker meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree. And the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee.
All right, go to verse 22.
Verse 22. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them.
No, I'm sorry, verse 21.
Verse 21. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand.
So his interpretations came to pass. Read.
But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them.
You see that? So it was death to the chief baker and reinstatement for the cupbearer. Read.
Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him.
but forgot him. That's a heavy point because Joseph went through a lot of things innocently. And he asked the chief butler not to forget him when he was reinstated or brought back to the top. But the chief butler forgot him. And that's sometimes, to be honest, what a lot of us think we go through or think in this walk. You understand that we are forgotten, that people forget our works? Listen, the Lord is righteous, never to forget your good works. That's why we have to stay faithful and keep producing even in a low state. You got to remember that, Israel. Stay faithful to the Lord. Let's continue. Let's go to, all right, so let's go to Genesis chapter 41. We're almost there. We're almost there. Genesis 41. We're moving through the timeline. I can't give everything, but we're talking about Joseph. Who's who? Joseph. Down, but not out. All right. 2 years later, Pharaoh had 2 dreams. At this point, the cupbearer had remembered Joseph, but it took 2 years for the cupbearer to remember about Joseph only because Pharaoh's dream. You had Potiphar, and then you had Pharaoh. Read.
The book of Genesis, chapter 41 and verse 1.
Come on.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years.
Full years. So Joseph was still down there. The cupbearer was living it all up, pouring it up. Forgot all about Joseph in prison. Read.
That Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed.
All right, go to verse 16. So Pharaoh has this dream, and he looks to interpret this interpreter for this dream because it troubled him. It said that it plagued Pharaoh. Verse 16, come on.
Verse 16. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not me in me. God shall give Pharaoh
I'm sorry, hold on. Go to verse 14.
Verse 14. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon.
Right, because now the cupbearer, he says, you know what? There was a young man that I was locked up with, right? And he interpreted this dream. He told the chief baker what would happen to him, and he told me what would happen to me. And it came to pass. That's how I'm here before you, Pharaoh. And Pharaoh says, you know what? Go get that young man. Let me see what you're talking about. Read.
And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh.
Right, because he shaved himself and came into Pharaoh, meaning that when he was by himself, he kept the laws. Joseph did. But there were laws in Egypt that there were some laws that we just couldn't keep. So he shaved himself and presented himself to Pharaoh. Read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it.
Come on.
And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me.
Listen, it's not me that's doing it. First of all, I want you to know that, Pharaoh. It's not me. Read.
God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Come on.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed, and well-favored.
All right. And so he starts to give him the understanding of his dream. And y'all could read that a little bit later. I don't want to take up that much time. But go to verse, where do we stop? Go to verse 29.
Verse 29. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt.
So he starts to interpret his dream to him. Okay. Actually, go to verse 28. Watch this.
Verse 28. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh.
Heavy. Come on.
Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt. And the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous.
So it should be very grievous. Now remember, this thing plagued Pharaoh to the point where he couldn't sleep. He needed to hear these words. Go to verse 33.
Verse 33. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise.
So not only did Joseph give him the right interpretation, he also gave him wisdom to help fix the situation that was about to come. Read.
And set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years.
Right. So Pharaoh was he was astonished by the way that Joseph was able to speak these things. But it was because of Joseph's faith, and it's because of his diligence, even when he's at a low estate. A lot of times we think that the Lord never gave up on us. We think because we go through marital trials, we go through congregational trials, and we go through personal trials, that the Lord is not with us. And a lot of times in those states, we act ungodly. We think ungodly thoughts. We add sin to sin. But Joseph wasn't like that. And that's why the Lord was able to elevate him out of his state. Because even when he was low, he knew that the Lord was still with him. Watch this. Go to where we at? Go to Proverbs. Watch this. 22 and verse 29. I'm going to show you this in the scriptures.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 29.
Come on.
Seest thou a man diligent in his business?
Remember, Joseph had to go into the house to do his business. But not only that, he was doing his business in the prison. The Lord had favor on Joseph in the prison, and he ordered the prison right. Everything that Joseph did, he did with diligence. That was his business. That's how the Lord created us as Israel. Read.
He shall stand before kings.
He said what?
He shall stand before kings.
Was Pharaoh not a king on the earth? Because he was diligent and he was faithful in his business and to God, he said that he would stand before kings and what?
He shall not stand before mean men.
You see that? So we continue to stay faithful. We continue to stay diligent in our task. The Lord will elevate us. But what are you going to do at your lowest state? When you feel like you alone? When it's time to examine yourself in the darkness, what are you going to do? You going to stay not diligent and be presented before mean men? That means what? Your boss hates you. Your kids ain't acting right. Ain't nothing happening the way it's supposed to go. Are you diligent? Or are you doing what you're supposed to do in faith and in truth so the Lord can elevate you through it all? Let's see. Let's see what Joseph did. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 41. Let's start at verse 38. All right. Pharaoh was impressed with the wisdom and good counsel of Joseph. Come on.
The book of Genesis, chapter 41 and verse 38.
Come on.
And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such an one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is?
Heavy. He said, "Who can we find anybody like this? This is one in a million, literally. This man right here, he's born of God. The Spirit of God is in him." Now, you got to remember, they had hella gods in Egypt, but ain't no God like the God that's in Joseph. That's what he's talking about. Okay, read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
Come on.
Thou shalt be over my house.
So look at that. He says, look, man, there's nobody as discreet as you. You could have been like, hey, get me out of here, shaking the prison cells. You know what I done done for you? You know what I done done for Potiphar? You know who I am? Do you know who I am? He wasn't doing that. He says he was discreet and what?
So discreet and wise as thou art.
And he was wise in his saying. All right, keep reading.
Thou shalt be over my house.
And he was lifted up. What does that mean? He was brought before kings and not mean men. Read.
And according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
Uh-huh.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
Read that part one more time.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. So here's the thing. Potiphar bought Joseph, and then he made him servant under Potiphar. But now, going through his struggle, going through the trials, staying diligent, he was elevated, guess what? Above Potiphar. He's the second in the greatest kingdom at that time on earth. Heavy. Keep reading.
Verse 41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand.
He did what?
He took his ring off his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand.
He made him second to the king, or the right hand of the king. He gave him his own signet. signifying that nobody is more powerful than, number one, Pharaoh, and number two, Joseph in all the land. Read.
And arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride.
Yep.
And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee.
They cried before Joseph, do what?
Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt.
So within 13 years' time, Joseph went from a prisoner to a prime minister over the greatest nation, or the greatest kingdom at that time on the earth. Within 13 years. We go through it for 13 months, and we be thinking that the Lord didn't forsook us. We be ready to give up the ghost. Listen, there's going to come a time, Israel, where it will get dark. All right? But the darkness is always before the light. What's that word? The dawn is always darkest. No. The night is always darkest before dawn. It's going to get dark. But as we are in that darkness, we got to make sure that we keeping faithful, staying prayed up, staying fasted up, keep teaching our children. Husbands, teach your wives. Study. It's going to get dark. But guess what? There's also a lifting up. All right? Let's keep going. Where are we at? Okay. So now we're getting into the final phase of it, where we will see forgiveness and the reconciliation. Because there may be times where people will do things to us, right? In the truth, outside of the truth. You can't control that. But what you can control is your spirit of forgiveness. Sisters may not deal with you properly. Brothers may not deal with you properly from the top, from the bottom. It don't matter. Your peers. But how are you going to respond to it? We're going to see what Joseph did. And this is what Who's Who is about. Looking at our forefathers, our foremothers, and seeing what they went through, how they applied the Spirit of God, so that we can learn from that as well. All right. Let's go to Genesis. Genesis chapter 42, and we'll start at verse 1. So Jacob sent his 10 sons to Egypt to purchase gain, only keeping Benjamin back. All right. So remember that famine is now taking place, and Jacob sent their 10 sons, leaving Benjamin back to get grain. Read.
The book of Genesis, chapter 42 and verse 1.
Come on.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do ye look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt.
So Jacob is like, hey, why y'all talking to each other? What's going on over there? Let me know what y'all talking about. Y'all know we need food. What's the plan? Read.
Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die.
Go to Egypt so we can get food. Read.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, sent not with his brethren. For he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him.
You see that? So he still remembers what happened. It said that he would bewail his son until the day of his death. He didn't send the youngest son, little Benji. All right? Benjamin is always going to be little Benji. All right? So he said, I don't want the same thing to befall Benjamin, so I'm going to protect him. I'm going to keep him close. All right? From there, let's go to, go to verse 8. Yes.
Verse 8. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him.
All right. So once his brethren got there, they arose and they're asking for grain. They're asking for provisions. Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. Why? Because remember when Joseph came out of the prison, he shaved his beard. He didn't look the same. He was rocking the Egyptian customs. Now, I don't know what exactly he looked like, but maybe he had like the little eyeliner. You know, they had those things. Maybe he had the thing, coming out the side of his head. I don't know. But he did not look like the customs or the laws of the Hebrews. So they didn't recognize him. And plus, many, many years had went past. All right. Keep reading.
And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them. And he said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come.
So he remembered the dream that the Lord gave him at the age of 17. That what? His brothers would come and bow down and do what? Obeisance
Yes,
unto him. Go to verse 15.
Verse 15. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither.
So he says, you're spies. So now he's proving them to what? To eventually bring conviction. He's going to see their character. Did they change? Do they even care? Because he knew that Benjamin didn't come. So Benjamin had to have been now the new loved one. So are y'all going to treat Benjamin like y'all treated me? He's pulling their character out. He's testing their integrity. Read.
Send one of you and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies.
Go to verse 19.
Verse 19, if ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so.
Right. And they didn't want to do that thing. But in order not to die, they said, you know what? It's going to kill Pops, but we got to do it. All right. Verse 21 through 24.
Verse 21. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us.
And that takes you back to when they threw him in the pit, when he was screaming for his brothers. He said, hey, the anguish of his soul. We didn't even listen to him. We ignored him. This is the we're going to die because of what we did to Joseph. We starved him out. We killed him. We sold him off. You understand that? So now they're talking among themselves about the guiltiness that they have right now for their little brother. Read.
And Reuben answered them, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear?
See, man, didn't I tell y'all not to do this to Joseph? This is y'all fault. I told y'all not to do this, and y'all ain't listen to me. Read.
Therefore, behold, also his blood is required.
Come on.
And they knew not that Joseph understood them.
So they're speaking in Hebrew, but they didn't know that Joseph could understand them. They didn't recognize Joseph. They didn't know that was Joseph. Joseph is sitting there testing their spirit. He's trying them, but he understands exactly. He understands, and he played the role so good. Read that next part.
For he spake unto them by an interpreter.
He played that role so good. Joseph had an interpreter, even though he could speak the same language. You understand that? Why? To test their character, to continue to see if they were going to have conviction for what they did to him. All right. So where we at? Read verse 24.
Verse 24. And he turned himself about from them and wept and returned to them again and communed with them and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes.
Right. So he had to go he was hurt, right? Not only was he hurt, but he had anguish. He had been longing to see his brothers. He didn't know what was going on with his household. He was sold. He had to become a whole totally different person in the eyes of Pharaoh. But to see his family, he wanted to show forgiveness. He wanted to be reconciled with his brothers. So the same question is for us. When we go through things, do we have that same longing for reconciliation when we go through things, or are we going to keep up the hatred? You might be, elevated past a brother, or might be in a different position over a sister, and she, be in a different office or whatever the case may be, and y'all might bump heads. But at what point will you forgive for the wrong that's been caused, or the offense for the wrong that's been caused? We ain't been through what Joseph has been through, but at what point will you forgive and move forward? Joseph is doing it, and he let them tears out. That's how bad and that's how deep it hurt Joseph. Keep reading. Actually, let's go to read verse 24 again, and then we're going to go to verse 28.
Verse 24. And he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes.
All right.
Verse 28. And he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us?
Go back to verse 25. Let's see what's going on here. Come on.
Verse 25. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack. and to give them provisions for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money. For behold, it was in his sack's mouth.
So Joseph put the money back that they gave for the food. He put the money back into their sacks. They go to feed the food or the food to the animals, and they saw that the money was back in there. Read.
And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God hath done unto us?
Okay, go to verse 33.
Verse 33. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are the true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land.
All right, so that's what he was going into. We're at, did we read 32? Read verse 31. I'm sorry, 28 to 32. Yeah, 42. Hold on. Read verse 20. Where we read at? 20. What did we just read?
We just read verse 33 on down.
All right, read verse 32 one more time.
Verse 32. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan.
Come on.
And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are the true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone.
So this is what he's telling his father Jacob. All right, this is the move that we must make if we want to survive. Number one, we have to bring back up Reuben, Dad. It's just the way it is. This is what the man of the country told us. They didn't know it was Joseph, but this is what we have to do in order to save our land. Let's go to verse 43. We're almost done. Chapter 43, and verse 27. Let's skip forward a little bit. All right. Now, as you start to read through this, you will see that Joseph continued to try them. All right. He tried them by proving their spirit when it came to stealing other money. It came to proving their spirit when it came to calling them spies. There was different things that he did to try to prove their character, to see who they really were and if they were sorry for the sin that they had done to him a long time ago. Verse 43 and verse 27.
The book of Genesis, chapter 43 and verse 27.
No, verse 26. I'm sorry.
Verse 26. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves down to him to the earth.
Was that not what the dream was? That they would bow down to him, to the earth? That they would show, what's that word? Obeisance unto him. Keep going.
And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom ye spake, is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive.
Right. So he wanted to know what was going on with his dad. He said, Is he still alive, man? I haven't seen him in 20-something years. How's he doing? What is he ill? How's his estate? And they say, yeah, he's still alive. Read.
And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son.
Then he lifted up his eyes and saw little Benji coming into the room. Read.
And said, Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son.
Now, remember we read in Genesis, what was that, 35? Did we read 35 and 17? We read about how the Lord would add, read that real quick, 35 and 17.
The book of Genesis, chapter 35, verse 17. And it came to pass when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said unto her, Fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oi, but his father called him Benjamin.
Right, Benjamin. Now, this is Rachel and Jacob's first or second son. The first son was Joseph. Okay, so they had the same parents. So Joseph had a particular affinity for his younger brother. He says, man, hey, we come from the exact same loins. So he feels some type of way for this his younger brother, and he loved him. Read. Go back to 43.
Yes, sir.
In verse
The book of
29.
Genesis, chapter 43, and verse 28. And they answered, Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep. And he entered in his chamber and wept there.
You see that? He had to remove himself so that he don't burst into tears. All right? This brother had righteous tears for his brother. He loved his family. This was him getting through that healing process. Brothers, there will be healing processes you got to go through. Just it is what it is. But the thing is, will you allow yourself to go through that, or will you be too manly? Because when you try to be too manly and won't take yourself through the shadow work, you're going to turn into a whole different beast later on. You might not even make it. You got to examine yourself. Sisters too. Before you get married, we all have traumas. We all have pains and healing that must come forth. But if you don't allow yourself to go through that with the word of God and through Matthew 18s and things like that, your soul is not going to make it. Read.
And he washed his face and went out, and refrained himself, and said, Set on bread. And they set on for him by themselves, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with them by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians.
Right, so he still kept that custom. He set them to the side, and he continued to prove his brothers and sisters. All right, we're almost there. Go to Genesis chapter 45 and verse 1. So he brought Israel back into his good graces. All right, they thought he brought Israel back into his good graces. We read a little bit about what was going on here. Read Genesis 45 and verse 1.
The book of Genesis, chapter 45 and verse 1. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him. And he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren.
Right, so he made everybody clear out the room. And he couldn't refrain anymore. He saw the character that they had. He saw that they were sorry. He saw that they were convicted for the sin that they did against Joseph, that they were offended. This is what Matthew 18 looks like. He won, guess what? His brethren back. You understand that? So he says, you know what? Now I'm going to let my guard down. Literally, y'all get out the room. I'm going to let my guard down, and I'm going to reveal myself to my brothers. Let them know that what? I forgive them. Keep reading.
And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard.
Everybody heard it. He didn't care. Read.
And Joseph said unto his brethren.
Because a lot of times, y'all brothers and sisters, we be so prideful. We be afraid to hear who's going to hear us apologize. We be afraid to apologize. We be afraid to go out of our comfort zone to win our brother and sister back over. That's not how Joseph was. And he wasn't in the wrong. There may be times where you not in the wrong and you still got to take the upper road, the higher road to guess what? Win your brother and sister back. That's what heap hot coals on their head is talking about. Joseph did that. That's why we're reading this. Keep reading.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph.
I am Joseph. Read.
Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence.
Come on.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt.
So people be going around the topic. People be trying to beat around the bush. If you got an offense, say something. Look, this is what happened. This is what you did. I want to talk about it. Guess what? I already forgave you before I even brought it up in conversation. That's why we going over it now, so that we can be on one accord. Get the elephant out the room. You know what you did to me, and I know what you did to me. We're going to settle it right now in the spirit of the Lord. Read.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life.
Because no matter what happens, the Lord always has a purpose for those that keep his commandments. You might go through hell and high water, but the Lord, if you stay diligent and faithful to to the purpose that the Lord gave you, you will come out on top. Joseph could have easily, with his power, cast them into prison, had them stoned, had everybody murked, but he didn't. He forgave them, and he let them know their errors and that he actually loved them and forgave them himself. Read.
Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither.
Because here's the thing. Sometimes we don't want to work it out with people because we can't forgive ourselves for the offenses or the wrongs that we did somebody else. That's why you don't want to talk to people. You ashamed to come up to the leadership table. You ashamed to salute a sister after you didn't offended her. She may have forgiven you already, but it's you that can't forgive yourself. There's brothers that don't want to salute brothers or they walk right past them because of something you said. We might have had a fallout, but listen, I forgive you. If it's a spiritual man or a spiritual woman, they're going to forgive you, but you got to forgive yourself. You the only thing blocking you from us. You understand? From the unity that we're supposed to have. Read that one more time.
Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life.
The Lord had a bigger purpose for me. Read.
For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest.
So we only been through 2 years, brothers. We got to tighten up because we got many more years to go. All right, that's what he's telling them. We still got 5 years in this thing. So I'm going to give y'all the insight. This is what y'all need to do. Go back and get your father. Bring our fathers back. Let's do this thing. Let's stay together. All right, keep reading.
And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God.
You thought it was you that did this, but God had a bigger calling. That's to show that we going to go through some hell, Israel. Before Christ's return, we going to go through it. Esau going to think it's them doing it, but it ain't. It's the Lord that has a purpose for us to bring us to deliverance. And what we go through, the things that we go through in our everyday life, will be for somebody else that's looking to come in. You need to let your light shine so that your brothers and sisters who are yet in this truth or not yet in this truth can see you be delivered by the Lord. And guess what? Give praise to the Most High God for that thing. Read.
And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and a lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt.
All right. All praises to the Most High. Go to Genesis chapter 50, verse 15 and 20. So they thought that Joseph still hated them even after the forgiveness. Why? Because they still couldn't forgive themselves. Read that.
The book of Genesis, chapter 50 and verse 15.
Come on.
And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead.
So he was, Jacob had now passed. And they thought that because Jacob is passed, that Joseph doesn't have a father ruler over them. Read.
They said, Joseph will peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him.
You see that? Now he's going to kill us. Now that dad is gone, he's going to kill us. That's how some brothers and sisters are. You understand? They can't get over the fact that a brother, look, evil, what does it say? Evil suspicion clouds judgment. Yeah, there's a scripture that say evil suspicion, it clouds your judgment. You're not able to forgive. You're not able to see the things that you're supposed to see in one another because you're still holding on to the issues. Keep reading.
And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren, and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father.
All right, we're wrapping it up. Go to verse 20.
Verse 20. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive.
To save much people alive. They think they're doing evil against us. Listen, there's going to be a lot of evil that comes out against us in this place before Christ returns. It's not them that's doing it to us. The Lord is bringing things out of us, purging things out of us so that we can get to the kingdom of heaven. All right, we will be cast down. We will be in a lower state. But if you stay faithful and stay true, Israel, we will come out on the other side. Get Job, the book of Job. 29 and 22, I believe.
The book of Job, chapter 29 and verse 22. After my words they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them. And they waited for me as for the rain.
You know what's weird? Give me Job 22 and 29. Hold on. My Lord. Yes, there it is. Woo! Job 22, verse 29. Come on.
The book of Job, chapter 22 and verse 29. When men are cast down.
When men are cast down, like Joseph, read.
Then thou shalt say.
Then we shall say in our spirit, read.
There is lifting up.
There is a lifting up again. When we're cast down, whether that's promotion, whether you lost a wife, whether you lost a husband, whether you lost a child, whatever the casting down is, you have to say there's a what?
There is lifting up. And he shall save the humble person.
And he shall save the humble person. Just like Joseph. We all going to go through it. But if we stay humble and we stay committed and faithful and diligent to the Lord, then we too will come out on top. All right, Israel? So I pray that you keep fighting. I pray that you stay in the faith. And this is Who's Who Joseph from, what is it? This is Who's Who Joseph. Down, but not out. Even though you may be down, Israel, you're not out. Keep fighting. All right? Now you see it. Now you believe it. Shalom.
What is a nation?
Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word